Welcome to my channel.
And this is English Podcast Station.
Okay, let's jump right into the material you shared with us for this deep dive. We've got a really interesting mix here. Notes, a review, a study guide, even parts of an actual podcast for English learners.
Yeah, it's quite a collection.
All focused on, well, going to the gym, which is pretty practical.
Absolutely. And these sources, they give us a great way to look at how very basic English is taught for, a specific real world thing.
Right.
So our mission today really is to pull out the essential language, the key vocabulary, and the practical tips that are highlighted in these sources. We're not teaching the English ourselves, but looking at what the source material does.
Exactly. This is kind of your shortcut to figuring out the main takeaways from these sources. You get the key phrases, the approaches, without digging through it all yourself.
We'll pull out the important bits.
Yeah.
And just to set the scene a bit, the main source seems to be this beginner English podcast episode. It's called Going to the Gym or Fitness Center from, I think, English Podcast Station.
Okay.
Hosted by James and Erica. And it's clearly aimed right at beginners.
Which makes it really interesting to break down. Okay, so the sources kick things off with the absolute basics, right? Defining the place itself.
Yes, exactly. They ask that fundamental question. What is a gym or a fitness center?
And the definition they use, it's perfect for a beginner, really simple. It's just a place where people go to exercise.
Yeah, nice and direct. And then they immediately list things you do there, grounding it.
Like what?
Well, you can lift weights, run on a treadmill, or take a class. It paints a quick picture.
Okay, got it. And what about the why? Why go?
Also kept very simple and relatable in the sources. People go to stay healthy, lose weight, or get strong. Connects the place to really common goals.
Makes sense.
And what's interesting, I think, is how the source material immediately gives you the most basic phrases for this.
Oh, right.
They really spotlight, I go to the gym, and I work out at the gym. And apparently the original podcast even encouraged listeners to repeat them out loud.
A repetition. Classic beginner technique.
Yeah, it shows the source really wants you to nail those basic action phrases first.
Okay, so that's the foundation. Start with the basic action, but then we must get into detail, right? Like the stuff inside the gym.
Exactly. They move on to the essential vocabulary you'd actually, see or use there.
What kind of words are we talking about?
The sources pull out a few key items. Treadmill, weights, yoga mat, and locker room.
Okay, concrete things.
Yeah.
Actual objects or places within the gym.
Right. And the definitions the source provides are super simple, clearly for beginners.
Like?
A treadmill is just a machine you run or walk on. Simple as that.
Okay.
Weights. They're defined by what they do. Weights help you get strong. You lift them with your hands.
Functional. Makes sense.
A yoga mat this is a soft mat you use for yoga or stretching, and the locker room is defined by its use. This is where you change your clothes before and after you work out.
Very straightforward. And you mentioned the original hosts, James and Erica, repeated these.
Yes, the sources note that they repeated the words and got listeners to repeat them too. Again, it really underlines that focus on listening, repeating, basic memorization for beginner learners.
Okay, so you've got the place, you got some key items. What's next in the source materials approach?
Well, then it shifts to making it personal. How do you talk about your gym habits, your routine?
Moving from just understanding the environment to talking about yourself in it.
Precisely. And they use the original podcast hosts as examples, which makes it feel more, real.
So what were their examples?
James, he apparently goes 3 times a week, and his thing is to run on the treadmill and lift weights.
Okay, pretty standard.
While Erica, she prefers something different. She likes to take fitness classes, specifically yoga and dance classes at her gym.
So different preferences shown.
Exactly. And based on those, the source offers simple sentence structures for you, the learner, to adapt.
Like templates.
Sort of. Like, I go to the gym 3 times a week, or I do yoga at the fitness center. It gives you a clear pattern to copy and modify.
And I bet they encourage practice.
Definitely. The sources emphasize practicing these by talking about your own routine. It links the new language directly to your life, which is, a smart way to make it stick.
Yeah, makes it relevant.
Yeah.
Now, this next part seems really useful, especially for beginners.
Yeah.
Dealing with needing help. That can be intimidating anywhere new.
Oh, absolutely. And the source material highlights a really encouraging message from the original podcast on this.
What's that?
Basically, don't be shy. People at the gym are usually helpful. It's trying to lower that anxiety barrier right away.
That's good. Do they give specific phrases for asking?
Yes, very concrete phrases, things to initiate contact like, "Hi, I'm new here, can you help me?" Really basic but effective.
Okay. What else?
Or more specific questions about equipment like, "Can you show me how to use this machine?" Or the slightly different, "How do I use this machine?"
Practical stuff.
Yeah. And finding your way. Where is the locker room?
Uh-huh.
Or asking about what's available. Do you have yoga classes?
Simple questions, easy to remember, hopefully.
And the sources even mention a sample dialogue where just the phrase, "Hi, I'm new here," was enough for someone to offer a tour.
Oh, nice. So it shows that just starting the conversation can work.
Right. It demonstrates that helpfulness they talked about. A simple start can lead to more information.
Okay, so we've got the place, the stuff, talking about routine, asking for help. Do the sources talk about, why bother?
Yeah,
The overall benefits.
they do, yeah. Stepping back a bit from just the language tools, they touch on the value of going to the gym, the motivation.
And what's the core message there, according to the sources?
It's straightforward and positive. Going to the gym is good for your body and your mind, linking it to general well-being.
Okay. Do they list specific benefits?
Yep. The source mentions things like exercise can make you feel happy, give you energy, and help you sleep better. Tangible, positive outcomes.
Things people actually want.
Exactly. And they even include a social angle. You can meet new friends too, which adds another layer beyond just physical health.
And I assume there are simple phrases for talking about these benefits too.
You guessed it. The source provides phrases like, "Working out makes me feel good," or "I go to the gym to stay healthy." Again, tying the language to personal feelings and reasons.
It's a very consistent approach.
Hey.
Here's the concept, here's the simple language for it.
Right.
Now, you mentioned a sample dialogue earlier.
Yes, the source material apparently included one. It showed a typical chat between, say, a new member and maybe a trainer or staff member.
What kind of things did they talk about?
Things like getting that tour we mentioned, asking about the fitness classes available. It just models the language in a little back and forth scenario.
Yeah, it's a mini conversation example.
And then pulling it all together, the sources lay out 5 really specific practical tips for beginners, like actual advice for when you first go.
Not just language tips.
No, practical actions.
Mhm.
Like 1, wear comfortable clothes and gym shoes. Obvious, maybe, but essential.
True. What else?
2, bring a water bottle and a towel. 3, start slow. Don't overdo it at first.
Good advice.
4, ask for help if you don't understand something, reinforcing that earlier point. And 5, enjoy yourself. Exercise can be fun.
It's nice they include that last one.
Yeah, it ties the practical advice back to the positive benefits. It shows the source is thinking about the whole experience for the beginner, the physical and the linguistic.
Okay, so if we sort of summarize the structure we've seen in the source material we dove into,
Right.
it systematically covers the basic vocabulary, then teaches how to talk about your routine,
Provides those key phrases for asking for help,
models an interaction with that dialogue.
and wraps up with concrete beginner tips. It's quite logical.
Very structured for a beginner.
Mm-hmm.
And practice seems key throughout.
Oh, definitely. That's a strong theme in your sources. They even pull extra practice phrases from, the original podcast's review section.
Encouraging you to actually use them.
Yeah, phrases like, "I go to the gym every morning," or "I lift weights and run," or "I like yoga classes." The idea is for you to imagine saying them, to internalize them.
And they suggest talking to a friend about it.
Yes. Specifically suggesting you talk about your gym routine with someone you know. It highlights that the source understands language learning really clicks when you apply it, even in simple interactions.
Makes total sense.
So, yeah, this deep dive, it's really let us see how a resource aimed at beginner English learners breaks down a practical, everyday thing like going to the gym.
We've pulled out the main language tools, the advice, as it was presented in the sources you gave us. Hopefully, it gives you a clear picture of what's deemed essential in that context.
Yeah, I hope exploring this material has given you a better feel for the language needed and also maybe how learning materials like this are often structured for beginners.
Definitely.
So here's something to think about, maybe mull over. These sources, they really prioritize simple, functional language, right? Stuff tied directly to actions, places, basic needs.
Yeah, very practical.
So does this approach tell us something fundamental about learning a language effectively, especially when you're starting out? Is it less about nailing perfect grammar early on and maybe more about just enabling that immediate real-world interaction? Achieving those tangible goals, whether it's getting fitter or just finding the darn locker room.
That's interesting. Connecting language directly to achieving something practical and maybe even to well-being or making connections.
It's something to consider.
It really does tie learning English to actual experiences. Well, thank you for bringing these sources to us for this exploration.
Yeah, thanks for sharing them. It was interesting to unpack.
Bye for now.